Welcome to another episode on Coffee with Craner. Today I have the Honorable Andrea Horwath. She is the leader of Ontario's New Democratic Party, also the leader of the official opposition in Ontario. Born and raised in Hamilton, has a Bachelor of Arts degree from McMaster, where she studied labor studies. And then also in 1997, she was elected as city councillor in Hamilton. So that's where her political career path first started. Following that, 2004, she was elected as a member of provincial parliament for Hamilton Centre. And in 2009, she was chosen leader of the Ontario New Democratic Party. Andrea, pleasure to have you on the show, and thank you for connecting with folks in Windsor, Essex.
Absolutely my pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure, Lyndon. I am in London, Ontario right now. So cheers to London, cheers to Windsor, and to Hamilton, which is my hometown.
Yes, thank you. And every Coffee with Craner episode, I do ask where the guest's favorite place to get coffee is. And in Hamilton, being born in Hamilton, where is your favorite place to get coffee?
Well, my favorite place to get coffee is a little coffee shop on Locke Street called Democracy.
Wow, yes. How come it's your favorite place?
Be appropriate.
Yes. How come it's your favorite place?
Well, because it's really grassroots, to be honest with you. It's really grassroots. It's really comfortable. It's fair trade. It's a great spot, and it's where all the cool kids hang out.
Cool. Hopefully I can visit there one day and be a part of the cool kids.
Absolutely.
Andrea, for those watching, there are some young leaders that are watching this live stream today, and they may be curious about your role. Are you able to talk a little bit about some of your responsibilities being leader of NDP and being leader of the official opposition?
Sure. I mean, I think, the most important role that we have as the opposition party in Ontario is to try to hold the government's feet to the fire, to try to keep the government, hold the government to account, I guess, on behalf of Ontarians. And, what that looks like, just for a couple of examples, back to school. So back to school has been quite controversial, and we have been very vocal in trying to get the government to provide the financial resources that school boards need to have a safe reopening this fall. Another big example, and again, it's COVID related, is the staying on top of the government, all things COVID, first of all, but the long-term care home situation that we've seen unfold here in Ontario. It's been horrifying. It's been tragic, and it wasn't necessary. It didn't have to be that way. And again, long-term care has something that's been in a bad shape for a very long time. So one of the other things that we do as an opposition party is to find things that help, that we want to fix for people, basically. And long-term care is one of those ones that literally I've been touring the province at least 3 or 4 different times over the last 10 years to try to get the government of the day, which the Liberals formerly, to start investing more in long-term care, because the quality of care isn't where it should be. So we identify, by listening to what people say and hearing complaints that come through our offices, but also, just observing the situation that folks find themselves in, identifying where we think government needs to step up, where they need to address problems, where they need to change direction if we think that they're heading in the wrong direction. But most of the work that we do really does come from listening to everyday people.
Excellent. So you mentioned pushing. How do you push the other parties that you're working with to take action into some of the topics you discussed, like long-term care?
Well, I mean, there's a couple of different ways. The legislature sits in the in the fall through to Christmas, and then again in the spring to June. And mind you, with COVID, we've been sitting different hours, and it's just been a little bit unstructured. But having said that, what we use all kinds of different tools. So we ask questions in question period. We provide letters to ministers. We do press conferences. We do touring to try to raise issues around the province in the various media markets and things like that. We elect MPPs who have strong voices in their local communities, and so where I might be I'm in London today with the 3 MPPs that we have here on the official opposition bench, but we have some great MPPs in Windsor as well that bring the voices of Windsorites to Queen's Park. So it's there's lots of different ways that we hold them to account, but interestingly, COVID has changed that too, because at the very beginning we didn't want to be hypercritical because people don't appreciate that, and rightfully so. We were trying to work really hard to be productive, to be constructive with the government. But as things have now, been 4 or 5 months now, we've started to go back to our traditional role of kind of pointing out where the government has not done such a great job in terms of the COVID response. But again, it's both. Some people think opposition is just being critical and just opposing, right? But what we've always tried to do, since I've been the leader anyways, what I've always tried to do is also be propositional, not just oppositional.
I love that. Now, being propositional and being also the opposition, what are some ways what are some qualities that you think really makes you that great politician that is propositional?
Well, I might have already touched on it, Lyndon, because it's, for me, I got into politics, because I listened to people. I think that the thing that is really important is that you get elected not for your own glory, but because you really believe you can help make people's lives better, and that's what got me elected in the first place. Back, as you noted in the introduction, back in 1997 when I ran for city council, and that's why I'm still here doing the work I'm doing. And I really do believe that if I didn't feel like I was having a positive impact, like I was actually making things better for folks, I don't know how I'd be able to keep the schedule I keep. Let's put it that way, because it can be pretty brutal.
Yes. Do you find most of the time majority of your role is just listening to people? Does that take up a lot of your day, just listening?
Well, it does, but it's interesting because you have to kind of create the environment for people's voices to be heard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so this is why I go on tour. I've been to Windsor I don't know how many times. Back when the old Grace Hospital was shut down, and the eyesore was sitting on the side of the street for so long. But that shows you how long I've been doing this work. And it's a matter of finding opportunities. So when I said I was touring on long-term care a number of times, so what we do is we go into the community and we set up meetings and we invite people, and we invite them through social media, and we invite them through our own networks, town hall meetings. We've been doing a lot of telephone town halls now, of course, with COVID, a lot of Zoom type of meetings. But it really is. It's not just if you're committed to actually the kind of work that I'm committed to when it comes to politics, you have to find the opportunity or create the opportunity often to give people a chance to have their voices heard, and it's extremely important.
Yes, thank you for sharing. And that's something that I've experienced, is politicians coming down, especially to the University of Windsor, and talking to students and hearing their voice. And I think for me, it was a good eye opener of what party that I may be interested in aligning with. And this is a question I have for you: is for students that are unable to determine what party they believe in, because I know it can be, especially for myself, just my experience with it, it's been difficult to choose what party. What is some advice that you could provide to those students who are unsure?
Well, I think the most important thing is to do a little bit of digging, right? So the parties have platforms, they have online presence, and so you can go onto their websites and dig into what it is that they're up to. You can get involved at the local riding association level and kind of maybe meet some of the people that are already involved in the parties, and that gives you a sense of who those folks are, and what they what kind of people get attracted to those various parties. There's I think the most important thing is to do the work, right? To kind of to engage in whatever you can in terms of the the official websites and things like that, but also the news, right? I mean, you watch the news, you see what's happening in your community, you see what the government's saying, you see what the opposition party's saying. That sometimes gives you a sense of values. I mean, what the values that New Democrats hold versus the values that Conservatives hold, because the Conservatives are the governing party right now. And then you look at the performance of a government. So we had a Liberal government for 15 years in Ontario. Do people feel that they did a good job? Do they feel that they achieved, some of the priorities that you hold as an individual? And that's I think another piece. So it's news, it's websites, it's observation, all of those things.
So Andrew, how did you determine what party that you align with?
I joined the NDP in university. I was in university, and that's when I joined the NDP. And it's because it's a party that I felt reflected my values. I'm from a working class family. My dad was an auto worker. I wasn't raised with any privilege, quite the opposite. I'm the only one of my family, 4 siblings, who attended university, although my sister attended college. I was the first in my family of my dad's side of the family and my mom's side of the family to actually attend university. In terms of our extended family, my cousins and things like that. So it's it was a decision based on what I knew the party stood for. So everyday people, working class folks, racialized communities, and believe in things like everybody should be able to have a safe, adequate roof over their head. And in a wealthy province like Ontario, we shouldn't have the kind of homelessness that we have, for example. Everybody should be able to get the prescription drugs that they need. It shouldn't be dependent on whether or not you have a drug plan. If you're not working, or if you're not a student anymore, or if you're working in a place that doesn't have a drug plan, then you have to pay a lot of money for your prescriptions, and that keeps people unwell instead of keeping people well. So things like universal pharmacare, these are things that I just believe in. They're values that I hold, and I think it was obvious for me that the NDP was my political home.
No, it's fascinating to know where it all started and how you really chose this party. So thank you for sharing that. And I kind of want to talk about being the first woman to lead the Ontario NDP. How are you continuing to be that strong advocate for equality in Canada's government? I'd be interested to know.
Yeah, well, you know what? It's I have to say I'm pretty happy with the work that myself and others. I mean, nobody builds a strong party that becomes an official opposition on their own. So certainly a lot of New Democrats and a lot of staff that I worked with over the years have been part of that journey. But I'm proud to say not only did we reach the status or the position of official opposition, but it's the strongest bench of opposition that we've had in Ontario in over a generation. So it's a strong opposition. The other thing about it, though, is that when in the last election campaign, going into the last election, we had about 20 MPPs, 10 of whom were women. So one of my worries as a leader was, yes, we wanted to form government. We didn't quite make it, but I was also concerned about making sure that our caucus reflects the community. So I'm proud to say not only do we still have exact parity of men and women in our caucus, so we have 50% women, which is fantastic, but we also have a very diverse group of people. We have some people that are fairly young, some young people. We have the first ever official Black caucus in our caucus, because it's the first time we've elected enough Black people to actually form a caucus. So we have 6 members of our Black caucus. We have the First Nations person to be elected, which is really great. Saul Memekwa, who's from Western Ontario, Northwestern Ontario. And we have a number of other Indigenous members as well, MPPs that sit on our bench. And so, as a leader, for me, that's something that I really was striving to do, is to open up our party to make our party much more reflective of community, to engage young people. These are some of the things I talked about in my leadership bid back in the day, which is a long time ago now. But I have to look back at that and look at where we are now. But when I got elected in 2004, we didn't have party status. I brought party status back to the legislature. So right now, we're the only other party with actual status in the legislature, the governing party and us. The other parties don't have enough MPPs to be officially recognized as parties at this point in time in the legislature, right? So, but again, these are values that I held. These are beliefs that I had, and with the help of other folks, as I mentioned, we've been able to achieve quite a bit, and it's been pretty exciting, I have to say.
So since being elected as a member of provincial parliament in 2004, have you noticed this shift of more women leaders being involved in the government?
Well, it kind of, I think we had an up and down, right? We had a point in Ontario, a point in Canada where we had a number of women premiers, right? We had Kathleen Wynne was here in Ontario. I think Christy Clark was in BC. Rachel Notley was in Alberta. I can't remember can't remember the others, but there were two more, and that was it was great. But we don't have that anymore. Now I don't know that we have any women premiers at this point in time nationwide. Having said that, I think that the more we do to ensure that we don't just talk about having gender parity, but it didn't happen by accident that we have this very diverse group of people. It didn't happen by accident that we have 50% women. We have rules in our party that require us to do certain things to ensure that we get that representation. You can't just kind of decide that you're going to be the candidate, for example, in an election. We make sure that the local areas, the local ridings, do the work necessary to identify potential candidates that are from diverse backgrounds, that are women, that are LGBTQ plus people, that are, this is what we do on purpose. And so we do have some queer people on our caucus as well, which is fantastic. So yeah, the diversity is important. And, speaking of women, you've got Lisa Gretzky in Windsor, which she's awesome. So yeah, absolutely. It's important and it can be done, I think, is what we've shown is it can be done if you're serious about it.
Yes, no, it's great to see all the great work NDP is doing to really diversify the caucus and all the different groups in NDP. And to kind of wrap things up, I'm curious to know what would be some things that maybe students or young professionals or those looking to consider running for a member of provincial parliament or a member of parliament position. What are some things that you think they should know before entering the role?
Well, I think the most important thing is know why you're doing it, right? You have to know why you're doing it. And if you're, and that way you can be true to yourself. I think, and it might sound a bit cliche, but I know authenticity is something that people are seeking, and rightfully so. And so if you want to be successful, you have to be authentic. And if you're going to be authentic, you have to know why you're doing what you're doing, right? So that would be the first thing. The other thing is, we always talk about, young people, particularly as leaders of the future, which I just think is nonsense. Young people are leaders right now, not in the future. And so and I'm serious, and watching some of what young people were doing, when the Ford government first got elected and we're cutting back on, funding in universities and cutting and trying to kill the student union movement and what high school kids were dealing with in terms of fighting against increasing class sizes, and elementary kids were doing that same work, trying to fight back against the government. It was amazing. It was amazing to see the leadership that came out there, and with the internet as a tool, obviously it's that much more, I think, more accessible to organize, young people in terms of fighting for their future. And so So I mean, I've seen such great leadership from young people that I don't say that about it being something in their future. Leadership is right now for a lot of young people, and this is, I mean, even in my caucus, as I said, we have some younger folks that got elected as MPPs that are in their 20s still, and I think that's fantastic.
Thank you, Andrea, and I appreciate your time today and sharing some words of wisdom and advice. I really enjoyed talking about your story and your political career path. And to those watching, thank you for joining us. We truly appreciate it. And Andrea, thanks for connecting with those in Windsor, Essex. We had a couple members that popped in the comments to say hello, Tracy Ramsey, and so many others. We're happy to see you on the live stream today.
Yeah, my pleasure. You should be talking to Tracy. She's awesome too.
Thank you, definitely.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining.